Welcome to Yoga for First Responders on Air, where we break down yoga, neuroscience, resilience, and public safety in a manner that's authentic, educational, and most importantly, entertaining and lighthearted. I'm YFFR's founder, Olivia Mead. As a yoga instructor and neuroscience enthusiast, I'm passionate about supporting first responders and anyone looking to improve their overall human performance. Each week, we'll dive into a new topic and often bring on expert guests to share their insights and experiences. But we'll also keep it real and share our own stories and struggles along the way. So whether you're a first responder or seeking to master the science of mental and physical resilience, this podcast is your ultimate guide to triumph over life's challenges with unbreakable strength and unwavering fortitude. By pressing play, your training has begun.
I think everybody can say it. 2025 has flown by. Like we're already halfway through August, which is insane, quite frankly.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm still getting ready for starting my 2025 goals. And that's
I know. Okay, so let's revisit what we decided to do in 2025. I know and then, there's already pumpkin stuff in the grocery stores. And I'm not one of those people that's like, get out of here, fuck you, don't do that yet. But I'm also like, time's already fast, so it's like, and then I think it's exemplified when you have a toddler and a child and they grow so quickly. Um, so I think when I'm hungry like this, I go into an existential spiral.
well, I mean, they're not a sponsor of us, but maybe we should give them this clip, like bring it back the branding of Snickers. Like, have you had your Snickers today?
God, what if Snickers sponsors us? We're going after all these like health and wellness and blah 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 public safety. What if we're just like, you know what? Snickers and Jack Daniels, that's who's sponsoring us. They're gonna give us the money, and there you go.
Yeah, I mean, it would be culturally informed, like Monster, like I think which is owned by Coca-Cola. So like have Coca-Cola sponsor us.
If anyone is listening and knows has connections there, do not be afraid to connect us with Monster energy drinks or the Coca-Cola company.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
we're not
we could
above
get a cool sponsor for our next instructor school.
Element. Is that what LMNT element is? It's called Element
Oh,
LMNT Element.
Element, yeah.
Yeah.
They're sponsoring our next instructor school with giving some of their electrolyte drinks for us. So
Yeah.
we'll have
So
some.
if nothing else, come to instructor school for the Element drinks.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, if you are listening to this before September of 2025, we do have partial scholarships available. And by partial scholarship, I don't mean a box of Element.
And if you're listening after September of 2025, but before December of 2025, there's another instructor school coming up that you should be
Yeah.
signed up for.
Not sure if we're going to have partial scholarships for that or not, but that one's with the U.S. Marshal Service, so it's going to be super super cool.
Yeah, so just
And
sign up.
yeah, it's open for everyone. But yeah, speaking of the sun going up and the sun going down, and when we as animals should be resting and when we as animals should be doing things, um, I actually had a conversation with Dr. Leah Kaylor today. Eric, I met her at
Taylor,
huh?
Taylor,
Kaylor,
Leah,
K
Kaylor.
Leah Kaylor, yep. And she is a licensed clinical and prescribing psychologist, and
Hmm.
she's the FBI's sleep expert. So
Oh,
she is one of their psychologists that works with them and takes appointments, but as known to be like the one for sleep. Uh,
cool.
yeah. So she has a passion for optimizing human performance. So as you can see, that's why we got along. She's on a mission to help others harness the transformative power of rest because this is like her motto, better sleep shouldn't be top secret. So it kind of has that
Mhm.
FBI,
Yeah.
CIA flair to it. Um,
And let's be honest, rest and recovery and sleep is the foundation of all other health and wellness. Like
we literally,
if your sleep is out of whack, you're pretty well fucked for everything else.
We literally touched on that because she even said like she wants to make one of those tables in the park that says sleep touches everything you do, change my mind or whatever. It's like it absolutely does. So she's good at sharing practical science-backed strategies. Ooh, sounds like us.
Hmm.
On her YouTube channel, and she is has a book coming out called If Sleep Were a Drug, and it hit shelves October 1st. By the time this comes out, it will have hit shelves because we're timing it out. So if you hear this,
Cool.
you're like, I want it, it'll be available.
Sweet.
We're saying like, isn't that annoying when we are talking about something 2 months early and you're like, I have to wait 2 frickin' months for this. So we're gonna time
Yeah.
it out appropriately.
Yeah, I mean, if you're on a book tour, I get it. Like publishers want you on the pre-release tour to drum up excitement about it. But we also live in an instant gratification world.
Yeah.
And so if they want it, they want it now.
Or pre-sale it or whatever, but like
Yeah.
get someone doing the clickety clack because after I get up from this chair, I'm gonna forget what I just saw on my email. Like you know what I mean? I'm like,
Right.
what is in front of me at the moment? And I literally ask her, so the name of her book is If Sleep Were a Drug, and I ask her, if sleep were a drug, dot dot dot, and you'll have to hear the episode to know
Cool.
what her response is. But she's rad, and I really want her to be. Speaking of signing up for USMS, I think she's going to come to that instructor school too.
Awesome.
So if
Nice
you
to have these experts knowing what we do so they can continue to advocate and testify on our behalf, for lack of better terminology.
and Eric, where have you been lately? I feel like we need to take away the hosted by Olivia and Eric. It's just like hosted by Olivia. And
Yeah, you've been on a roll with all these quick casts lately. And in fact, I was going to try to record one this week and you elbowed me out of the way.
I
Like,
know.
no,
Well,
I got it. Like,
I know. I just felt like,
almost got sharp elbows right now. So, folks, I've been on, actually, I'll be honest, I've been on kind of like Papa duty right now, and I've
yeah.
kind of been enjoying it. You've been taking the leadership on YFFR, and that's cool.
Well, why don't you do some quick casts, whatever you're thinking of, just get her done. Let's put them in the pipeline there. And I'm gonna set up some interviews with you and some people we know that I think you'd be a good, the good primary. I might come in for a bit and drop some knowledge and truth bombs and
Make sure that we don't get too
give people some
rowdy
shit. You know who I'm talking about. I'm gonna come in, make fun of a few people, and then
and then leave,
blow
bounce.
out of there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, it's just been my world kind of been crazy right now. Like I was
Yeah.
on hold for a couple of weeks with my full-time job, and yeah,
Yeah.
I've been gone for FBI and AA and whatnot. And so it's just been, yeah, a whirlwind of July again. Like the time, that's why the time is going by so quick. And
Never
we look
stops.
forward to our upcoming schedule. And I was telling this with some friends that I was having coffee with yesterday, real quick, that our upcoming schedule is bonkers. Like it's not slowing down, which is, and one of them even said, they're like, I wish I was busy with my business right now. So I mean, again, we have to be grateful for what we have and that we are traveling and doing a lot of cool stuff. And a lot of it, I mean, we have our instructor network retreat coming up. We have a couple of instructor schools coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot happening right now in the YFFR world, and that's awesome.
Yeah, it is. What are you working on today?
I had a powerful meeting this morning
Yeah.
that I won't disclose too much publicly, but
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a it was an important meeting with a super cool guy. He was interested in the fact that I help run YFR and that I've written a book on stoicism, and he found me on LinkedIn, so we met up, and he's a connector through and through. So some opportunity for some big connections through that meeting. So that was a big one that I had this morning already.
You're on a roll, man. All right. Well, I have like an hour till you and baby girl are getting home, so I'm going to stare into the sky, question my choices, and eat a sandwich.
Not time to have a
Maybe I
cocktail
should.
yet, is it?
What?
It's not time to have a cocktail yet, is it?
No, I'm not having a cocktail tonight because I'm doing Witchy Moon Circle.
That's true.
It's funny, everyone, because teaching yoga for first responders, I'm very tactical. I'm very like, get all the blah, blah, blah out of the way. But that's my job. I teach yoga for first responders, right? It's not yoga for Olivia. Olivia
Right.
chants at the fucking moon, okay? When it's a full moon, I get together with women and, we howl. No, but there even that group is super, super grounded, which I love. But yeah, I don't need to go to my moon circle schnockered.
No, probably not. You'll be high on life.
I'll be high on the moon's energy. Today's
Good.
the Lion's Gate portal, and you know what? I don't quite even know what that means. So let me just Google it for the folks. What does Lion's Gate? Yeah, Gate.
And
Lion.
for those internet sleuths out there, you now know when we're recording this episode.
I know exactly. Um, The Lionsgate Portal is a yearly astrological event occurring around August 8th, where the Earth, the star Sirius, and the constellation Orion align, creating a powerful energy gateway believed to enhance manifestation and spiritual growth. It's associated with Leo season, symbolizing courage, strength, and self-expression.
Maybe you're
That's
energetically like shedding some shit off, and that's why you're feeling a little bit weird.
Yeah, you're probably right. And I need a Snickers. Both can be true
They
at the
can
same
both be
time.
true. We can
But
have one foot in the woo and one foot in the reality. Like we
yeah,
need some food and we're
and
shedding
I'm
some energy.
energetically aligning. So this is what I'm gonna go do. I'm gonna go eat something, and then I'm actually gonna do some manifestation work so that I'm prepared for this. I will tell you this, everyone. A couple years ago, I guess several years, so 4 years ago now, it was 2021 Lionsgate. And I was super frustrated with not having, had a baby yet, despite us trying. And I was talking to my Mayan abdominal massage lady, telling her how frustrated I was. And she said, well, this weekend or tomorrow, whatever, is the Lionsgate. It's the time to really manifest and put it out there. And I did take time to really write down why I wanted a baby, why it's authentic to me, all this stuff. And then I was pregnant with her a few months later. So
There's something to be said for the energetics. For those
I
people that
know.
that don't believe in it, honestly, it's crazy as it sounds. The more you like tease the threads of it, it's the more that's seemingly there,
Yeah,
honestly.
yeah.
So
Well, it's very subtle. And like, listen, you walk into a room and you can tell, or when someone else walks in a room and you're like, whoa, something shifted, that good or bad or whatever. And so that's what we're talking about. It's so subtle, but it's
well,
something that, you
and
know,
this actually then ties back to yoga for first responders. By what we do, we're actually helping people slow the mind, slow their body, slow their nervous system, which then allows for more of those gut responses. So they're actually more attuned and more
yeah,
aware of true situational awareness, being tuned into what's going on around them. So,
yeah, it's a sick,
and that's rooted in science. Like I can pull you the study from Chick Semi High. Like, so
yeah.
don't come at me and say I'm talking woo-woo spiritual stuff. Like we can show you the data on how we actually open up intuition.
Yeah, if you want to be really great at what you do, that's something that has to be considered. And might I add that if you've decided to go into a really like high stakes profession like public safety, you have no choice but to be great at what you do. Otherwise, you're being irresponsible. I mean, you are there as a public servant for public safety. You have to be top notch. I asked this one academy I was teaching, like, who in here wants to be elite? And only a few recruits raised their hand, and some were like, I'm just trying to get through the academy. Then no, just go learn to do something else that you can just get through. But it's not about getting through, it's about finding all the tools and having the self-awareness to know what you need to be best for the job that you're doing. So, I'm hangry, so that's why
That's
I'm calling everyone out right
that's
now.
the reality though, and that's the passion that we are bringing back with the organization. Honestly,
Yeah. Yep.
that's the
And
fire that we need, and people need to hear. And this is
yep.
the truth. And this, yeah, punches people square between the nose once in a while. And I've always said that's how we get their attention, whether
Yep.
like it or not. It's just by hitting them square in the face with what they need to hear, not what they want to hear.
And I think that this is why everyone's going to really like Dr. Leah Kaylor too, because she is grounded. She says it how it is. She works with the FBI, so she's culturally informed and she's just direct and she makes it tactical. And so I think you're going to enjoy her if you enjoy us. And if you don't enjoy us, I don't think you're still listening. So,
Yeah, so you know what we should probably do at some point? This is like hashtag level advanced podcasts, but there's ways that you can like put bookmarks in chapters. So if people don't want to hear us banter, they can hit like skip and it goes to like the
oh, I
beginning
know.
of the
My
episode.
true crime podcast, they have this whole thing. What do they call it? It's like, I don't know, the skippers or whatever. Like this is for the skippers, this is for the skippers. No, I'm forcing you to listen to our banter. It's the best part. No, we should put that on there. Or they can just fast forward till they hear someone else's voice speaking like smart things. All right. Enjoy Dr. Leah, everyone. See you soon. Bye. All right. So, first of all, for our audience and those who listen a lot, we had a sleep expert, a neurologist on a few weeks ago.
Exciting.
Yes. And, his point of view was from the medical side, but also how, kind of how it ties into heart disease and especially in women, how the symptoms are more quiet and so he and I was kind of relating it back to what we do. But what's cool about you is that you're a yogi, a yogini,
I am. Oh, I love that. Yogini. I'm gonna
yogini, and you're a
steal that.
psychologist, and you're culturally informed by working in this field. So you can probably connect the dots even better. So that's why, and also sleep, we can never stop talking about it.
Yeah.
Like
But we're not talking about it enough either.
right. That's what I'm saying is like,
Yeah.
that's why it's like, oh, we just had a sleep expert on. No, we need another and another and another. And we
Mhm.
need to normalize rest and recovery. Um, so yeah, so let's get into it.
Okay, let's do it.
And I have notes over here too on my second monitor, so I kind of go like this.
Sounds
Um,
good.
but when did you were like, you know what, sleep's my thing. I'm gonna
Hmm.
I dig it, it's important, and I'm going to be its cheerleader.
Yeah, so I haven't always been the greatest sleeper and like hindsight is always 2020. And so as I look back on the mistakes that I was making, like more so in my college days, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, you were such a dummy. Like this is very obvious." But I would say that sleep became my thing. So I did my residency, my final year of my PhD at the Memphis VA Medical Center. And while I was there, you have to do several different rotations to make sure that when you go out into the world and you practice under your own psychologist license, that you are well prepared, well rounded, and you've gotten the best training that they can possibly give you in that amount of time. And you have to do various different rotations. And so I had several that I had my heart set on, and then I was going to be flexible for the rest. And you have to be flexible because, at least in our setup, and I imagine other residency programs too, we had a day where all the interns, all the postdocs, we all come into one room and we're not leaving until everybody has rotations and everybody is relatively happy. And so I really had my heart set on like two, and one of them was community emergency services. Another one was forensic evaluations, which neither of those seemed like they would be with the VA, interestingly enough, but the VA had lots of different partnerships. And everything else I was very flexible about. So I can't remember if I wanted the sleep clinic or if I was just willing to take on the sleep clinic because someone needed to go there. Again, I've said this multiple times. I am so grateful to have gone to the sleep clinic. I didn't realize how big of an issue sleep was for people, let alone being at the VA. I think that some things are at such an extreme there. And that's absolutely what I saw whenever it came to sleep issues, as far as folks having nightmares and very severe nightmares because for whatever reason the population that I like kept getting clients from was the Vietnam veterans. And so those folks have seen a lot of things, they've experienced a lot of things, and it even though that was quite a long time ago, it was still impacting them today in a lot of different ways, but very much so in their sleep. So I would teach sleep hygiene courses there, which I very quickly got used to people falling asleep on me. So if you fall asleep on me here today or the listeners, I will not take offense. It is, I'm so used to it because we're just so sleep deprived and we don't realize it. But I also did courses on how to wear your CPAP machine because that's also very anxiety for some people, let alone someone who may have some type of military trauma with having something on their face. I saw tons of people for nightmares, which a lot of folks don't realize that we can treat nightmares, and especially nightmares that repeat over and over again, we can actually treat those very effectively. So I got a chance to do lots of different things on that rotation. And then I graduated, and my first real job, if you will, was at the FBI as a psychologist. And within my first week there, my supervisor asked me, "Okay, Leah, so what's going to be your thing?" And I said, "Well, I just got off of a sleep rotation. How about we do that?"
So they hired you not with sleep necessarily in mind.
No, no. So I completely have fallen into this, if you will, and now everybody at the Bureau knows me for sleep. But no, I wasn't hired for sleep. I was just hired. Actually, I was an FBI intern for several years while I was finishing my PhD. So no, they were just looking for a mental health professional, and that's how I came on board. And then essentially what I had said was, we're getting better and better, which is wonderful, but I do think that there's still stigma whenever it comes to mental health, and especially if you layer on law enforcement, layer on being the world's most elite law enforcement agency in the entire world. So my thought was, okay, sometimes I introduce myself, I say I'm a psychologist, and people are like, all right, bye.
Yeah.
Like, don't look at me. Did you already write a dissertation on me? Like weird stuff like that. I get that all the time. So I thought, you know what? It'll just be easier if I talk about sleep. Everyone can relate to having a crappy night's sleep, and it doesn't automatically mean that you have mental health issues. Maybe your dog needs to go out in the middle of the night. Maybe you're dealing with some chronic pain. Maybe your bladder just isn't what it used to be. So there's lots of different reasons why you may come to see me for sleep problems. And then if you're already in my office and we talk about something else, well, hey, you get a bonus.
Got it. It's a nice little gateway for
It
conversation.
is. Yes. And that's how it started. And my first presentation was about sleep. And yeah, it just took off from there as far as tons of requests for sleep presentations, requests for working with individuals one-on-one, whether that's nightmares or like sleep coaching, sleep hygiene stuff. So it evolved because like you said earlier, we're just not talking enough about sleep. And I I've kind of just stepped into that over the past several years.
So how many psychologists are there? Like, are you taking on everybody? Like,
So, to kind of give you an overview, and I just want to make a disclaimer that everything that I say here will be my own thoughts, opinions, beliefs, biases, and this podcast is not sponsored or endorsed by the FBI.
I
Back
wish
to
it
your
were,
regularly
but it's
scheduled
not.
program.
I wish it were.
It is not. I think people think we're a huge organization, and in some respects we are. We're about 37,000 employees. And so in my role, so you asked about psychologists, and that's important distinction. So a psychologist is either it's a PhD level, like I should say a doctoral level. So you could have a PhD or you could have a PsyD. And then we also have tons of master's level clinicians. So I would say, just off the top of my head, I think that we probably have 25 mental health professionals,
Okay.
and we serve agents, professional staff, joint task force officers, and family members. But when it comes to psychologists, I believe that I am one of three. So I believe that there's two others if I'm going through my head and thinking about all of our mental health professionals. So that kind of gives you an idea of who we serve. But one beautiful thing about it is being at the federal level, I can serve anyone anywhere. So it doesn't matter what state my license is in, where they're sitting. So that makes it so
Oh,
much cooler and
oh,
easier than
okay.
being a community clinician.
Okay, this was going to answer my question. So you're
Yes.
serving um in Quantico, like in that area in Virginia, like,
So
or
I
can you
actually
do
don't sit at
online out
Quantico.
in the field?
Yeah, so the I would say I do see some people in person, but I would say the vast majority of people I see online just because of work demands, what they've got going on, what I've got going on. things pop up all the time and we need to reschedule. So I would say the vast majority of people I see virtually, but there are definitely some people who can just walk right into my office too. But I don't sit at Quantico. I sit out of our West Virginia office.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you can serve people in offices around the country.
Around the country and even around the world. I've had some people who are stationed overseas who are just really struggling and we get connected and
Okay, great.
it's
And
very cool.
listen, I want to give some props to the FBI for offering that. Like, heck,
It's the way that it works is because we're at a federal level. Yes, so it makes it that much more convenient because, yes, it is very, very challenging when you're not at the federal level and you have to take into consideration what state the mental health professional is in, what state the person is in, all the rules and regulations. Not to say that we throw all the rules out the window, but it makes life a lot easier in
yeah,
that aspect.
you're on a federal, yes, you're everything. Yes,
Yeah.
you're for the country on the federal level. I love it. I'll tell you a quick story of how I ended up here in Albuquerque.
Yes.
Was that I would teach in-service training for the FBI's victim services unit.
Oh, I love victim services.
Yeah, and so one of their sessions one time was in between Albuquerque and Santa Fe. And I've loved New Mexico my whole life. And when I got here, there was just something like energetic that hit me. I was looking at the mountains. It was amazing. And I was having a failed marriage. My marriage was failing at the time, and we were trying to work on it, or I was trying to work on it. And I sat at this beautiful hotel where they were having their thing. And also, I just love those people, right? Like,
Yeah,
I was
that's a
having
great group.
a great time connecting with them. I was talking to them about my marriage too. Like, and I sat out for breakfast and this hummingbird came by and I was like, oh, this is magical. So I texted my then husband and was like, we have to come here on a trip together. Like, let's, come to this beautiful place and reconnect. And he was like, I don't really like that part of the country. I don't like it there. And that's when I knew, okay, this isn't gonna work. Like
Yeah.
those are two different people authentically. And
Yeah.
then fast forward, that probably was 2017. So fast forward to 2024, and my new husband and our baby and I move here to Albuquerque. So yeah,
Yay.
special place in my heart for the FBI.
Good. Yes. Oh, that's such a nice story. Well, I'm glad I had a good ending.
Yes, yes. Oh,
Yes.
for sure. So let's talk about nightmares for a second.
Yeah, let's do it.
They're so
Yeah.
interesting to me. And maybe you can tell me what they're about, like in general, because how I've kind of seen it, how I've interpreted it for myself with
Mhm.
no education on it at all, is kind of trying to make sense or reconcile or have a corrective experience, right?
Yeah.
Because so when I was going through my eventual separation and divorce, I mean, I was having very specific nightmares at the same exact time every night, like all of this stuff. And now I have two recurring themes that pop
Okay.
up weekly, several times a week. One is that my current husband is leaving me. Okay. Or that
Hmm.
the same thing with my ex-husband, that all of a sudden the connection's gone, something's weird, right? And current husband, no, nothing to indicate that, but just there's that. Okay. And then the second one is, so I was a professional dancer and actress. That was my first career.
Okay.
And it happened really mainly with one show, my showgirl show. I was a showgirl in Vegas, and I'm called back to it to perform with no rehearsal. And I have to go on stage with no rehearsal.
Hmm.
So I keep like I'm like, what do I need to correct? What do I need to work on that I haven't already worked on, you know?
Hmm.
So I really am trying to use that as kind of like some knowledge, a little bit of like, getting some clues. So in your experience, if someone's coming to you and says, I have a recurring nightmare,
Hmm.
frame nightmares for us. What is this?
Sure. So just to talk generally about nightmares and then how we would treat a recurrent or repeating nightmare, we'll jump into that second. So whenever it comes to nightmares, yeah, you're exactly right. What is normally happening is just to back up even further, is during the night, we're going to cycle through various different stages of sleep. So we're going to cycle through light sleep, deep sleep, and REM sleep. And we do that about 4 to 5 times per night if you're giving your body the amount of rest that it needs. So for adults who are listening, ages 18 to 64, you should be getting between 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night. So I normally like to have a chart, but this is like a lot of audio. So imagine that you are at the beginning of the night, you're starting to feel sleepy, you're going to drop down into light sleep, you're going to drop down into deep sleep, and you're going to spend a good chunk of deep sleep in the first part of the night when you fall asleep. You'll spend a little bit of time in REM, and then we're going to start that cycle over again. And we do that several times. And as we move closer and closer to the morning when we're going to wake up, we get less deep and more REM. So our biggest chunk of REM is going to be right before our alarm clock goes off. In REM sleep, so I like to think about deep sleep, and this is very simplistic, but I like to think about deep sleep as very physically restorative. This is going to be great for your body, for your muscles. You've got growth hormone, you've got lots of different things going on to repair all of that wear and tear that we're constantly doing to our bodies. Now, REM sleep is sleep in general is just so cool. But REM sleep, if we were to put a cap with electrodes on someone who is in REM sleep, and then we had someone who was awake and alert and problem solving, and we also put a cap with electrodes on them, their brain waves would look very, very similar, like hard to determine which is which just shows how active we are in REM sleep. Again, I think a lot of people just think that when you turn out the lights to go to bed, like you're also turning off the switch for your brain and for your body.
Yeah.
We're not entering into an airplane mode, if you will. It's very much restorative and very active. So thinking about REM sleep, and that's normally the biggest chunk that we're getting right before the alarm clock goes off. This is very important for cognitive functioning, but also emotional regulation. And this is where dreams occur. So REMs, well, I should clarify, this is where like the vivid dreams, the ones that you remember, that's where those occurs in REM. REM stands for rapid eye movement, and it's in the name. How we know that someone is in REM is when their lids are closed. Yeah, their pupils are darting back and forth. And during REM, it's just, yeah, our brain is so incredibly active. So it is going through the day, it's going through all the information, it's taking things and it's putting them where they need to go. So all day long, we're getting tons and tons of information coming into our senses, but we can't possibly hold all that. And we also don't need to. It's not necessary to take in every single piece of information from our day, like through all of our senses and hold on to all of that. Like we can't possibly, it's not necessary. So during REM, one of the important functions is taking pieces of information and figuring out where it belongs in our neural networks. So let's just say, for example, you have a workflow. And with this workflow, like you know it really well. Okay, well, now you get a new piece of information that helps you make this workflow better and easier. Okay, so we need to put that where it belongs, but we also need to make sure that it's integrated correctly with that particular step of the function that you already know. So it's doing things like that, but it's also, I think that there's going to be people who might experiencing something during the day, like some type of trigger, whether we realize it or not. And I think that that's the thing whenever it comes to triggers is that they can be sometimes things that we automatically recognize and we know. Sometimes that's like a smell that kind of takes us back. But then I think there are sometimes things that are very, very subtle that maybe we don't realize that bring something up for us. And I think that that might be kind of what you're alluding to or what's happening behind the scenes for some of the dreams that you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But what is happening is that our brain is just sifting through all the things that have happened that day and trying to figure out, okay, where do these things go? And also whenever it's something that is negatively emotional or something that's traumatic or something that's life-threatening, whatever, especially when we're talking about first responders, that we need to take that emotion, take the sting out of it, if you will. And so when we're processing through it, sometimes our adrenaline and our cortisol are very high.
Mm-hmm.
And when it's really high, we can't process correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And that's oftentimes when we wake up. When we wake up from a dream in REM, oftentimes it's very vivid. We could tell you exactly what's going on. Like sometimes you're a little bit disoriented and like, what year is it? I'm not really sure. There's a lot going on. And so the brain likes to finish things. It does not like things to be unfinished. So as you can imagine, the following night, it wants to try and process again. And if we can get our adrenaline and cortisol under control, wonderful. And there's lots of different ways that we can do that, especially yoga to kind of help us get in the right place of mind. But there's lots of different tips and tricks to be able to get yourself to a better place. But sometimes that's just really, really challenging for folks. And this is kind of where we get into this broken record, if you will, of that same like variation or repeated nightmare or theme over and over again, is because the brain is trying to process it, but the adrenaline and cortisol are just too high that we can't move through and process the way that we were designed to, because adrenaline and cortisol are just too high to allow that process to happen.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. I mean, it makes sense. I just think that it's the brain. I mean, that's what we teach on too. So it's like the brain is so fascinating and
It
so cool. It's
is.
so like watching it work and trying to figure it out. And the presentation I did for FBI NAA was kind of
Yes.
reframing post-traumatic stress.
Hmm.
Because instead of looking at it, oh, I have PTSD, I have a diagnosis, I'm injured, something's wrong, I frame it as look at what the brain and nervous system is trying. Like I imagine everything gets, off a shelf and it's trying to put things back on the shelf. And it's like, oh, wait, no, that doesn't go there. That goes here. Oh, wait, with all of the different symptoms. And so when you kind of frame, for example, the nightmares that way, like, okay, we're trying to go through this process, but our hormones levels are too high. So, okay, great. I'm going to hit this button and lever to get the hormone levels down. And so this is how I describe yoga and meditation is we get into our brain and nervous system, put our hands on the levers, and we can push buttons and make some changes. So, tell me about when you kind of connected the dots of like, oh wow, yoga can be a step in making our sleep better.
Yeah, so I have been practicing yoga. I was, after our conversation, because we just met not long ago at the FBI NAA, and I was just so excited about us meeting. I was actually talking about you to my FBI yogis yesterday, and I was saying, "Oh, I'm going to be on this podcast. It's so exciting." And then I was thinking, "Gosh, when was the first time that I ever did yoga?" Just to kind of like take you down memory lane for a hot second. And I was thinking, I did gymnastics for a long time and I did it in college. And I remember being in high school. So this was probably like 2007, 2008. And I remember we were at like gymnastics summer camp and like we got a chance to take a break. So we weren't doing bars, beam, floors, vault, or conditioning, but we got a chance to go do something else. And we all went into the dance room and they're like, we're going to do yoga. I'm like, I don't know what this is, but like, okay, I'm excited about it. So
Yeah.
I just remember that being one of the first things. And we had done like a very restorative pose. And like, I still remember this and my memory is total crap, but doing like this very restorative pose where we're laying on the ground and our knees are bent, pointing up towards the ceiling, but then they're touching each other. And then we have both of our arms over top of our head, kind of in just like this very restorative pose as well, bent up over the head and kind of covering the eyes. And I just remember thinking like, wow, this is really lovely. Like I don't know what this is, but I'd like to keep it up. And I've been practicing yoga personally for a long time and then became a yoga teacher and just got my certification like end of 2024, which is super exciting. But to kind of get into how I figured out about sleep, because I would say I would just pick a time to do yoga. And we also do it at work too, which is very fun. But that's normally like at lunchtime. And not to say that you can't benefit from yoga at any point in time, you absolutely can. And you should whenever you can fit it into your day. But the way that I put two and two together as far as sleep and yoga goes was I had a little accident on my trampoline. So even though I'm retired from gymnastics, I have a 10 by 14 in ground trampoline with a net on it because I just can't fully retire. So I'm always out there, I'm always jumping, I'm always having fun and doing flips. Well, I did something kind of stupid in the summer of 2024 and just tweaked my back, like didn't think anything of it, but it lingered for a long time. And so I had a friend who was like, "Hey, have you ever heard of yoga therapy?" I'm like, "I have no idea what you're talking about, but let's do this."
Huh.
So I got hooked up with a yoga therapist and told her about my injury, and she created like a very special program for me.
Mhm.
And I I am someone, if you know me, you know that I like doing 10 different things all at once and just like trying to make the most of my time. And as we were talking, I think that she picked up on that during our first session as she was like explaining the sequence for me. And she's like, okay, Leah, so you're not allowed to watch TV while you're doing this. You're not allowed to listen to a podcast. You're not allowed to do this. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, so where do you think you'll fit this in your day? And I said, well, if I'm not allowed to do any of those things, how about I put it right before bed? And I said, can I at least listen to like some ocean sounds while I do it? She says, yes, that's fine. I said, okay, would it be okay if I did it in like a very dim room? She said, yes. And I said, okay, well, here's my plan. I'm going to do this right before bed if I'm not allowed to do anything else at the same time, which obviously you shouldn't. But in my mind, I was thinking about yoga therapy, kind of like physical therapy. Like that's kind of where my brain was. And, I should know better, but nonetheless, that's where my brain was when I was first introduced to yoga therapy. So I have about like a 10 to 15-minute yoga therapy routine for my low back. Very simple, very relaxed, pairing very specific breathing techniques with it. And I'm telling you what, I, I again, I practice what I preach, and I've been very serious about sleep for like 6 to 7 years now after leaving the VA and knowing what I know now. And this has been one of the biggest changes that I have. I should say the thing that has made the most difference when adding it into my wind down routine, because I think, and I imagine that everybody can relate to this, right? Is that we're constantly go, go, go. There's so many things pulling for our attention. Like there's never enough hours in the day. And it's really hard to find the time to have some type of wind down routine. But I think when you have an injury like I did and like wanting so desperately to heal and like also being a little bit afraid if I don't do the things I need to do that I won't heal and that's going to suck. So taking it very, very seriously and doing it right before bed, and this would happen quite a lot is like, I know it's time for bed. I know I need to be winding down, but like I'm not feeling that tired, but I'm going to go do this anyways. And after that 10 minutes and like the very particular breathing sequences that she had me do, I was yawning and yawning. And then I'm like, all right, well, I purposely did that in such a way that I could just like slip right on into bed. Like I already had my pajamas on, like everything was ready to go. And I've been talking about that a lot in 2025 of just how much of a difference it has made. And it doesn't have to be a huge time commitment. And so that is something that I am just trying to also share with people is, hey, this doesn't have to be challenging. You don't have to be a 10-year veteran yogi. You can do some very basic yoga moves to prepare your body for sleep. And wow, does it make such a huge difference?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's so funny that, that thing they say about like dating or whatever, like a man, like if he wanted to, he would,
Mm.
like if you're waiting for them to whatever. That's how I feel about my students and about first responders. If they wanted to, they would. And you're just saying, okay, it's hard to fit it in. I get it.
It is.
I barely fit in a yoga practice, and I do a minute of meditation with my 2-year-old. That's how I fit in my meditation,
I love it.
But when something becomes a priority, like
Yes.
your back, you want to get it fixed. Oh, all of a sudden you can fit it in.
Right.
It's like if we can really, which we're both doing, but like we're showing first responders and high stress professions how valuable it is for what they do in hopes that they will start to make it a priority and make it, training time in their day. And also, it's no surprise that as you were practicing your yoga in the evening, you start to yawn, and
Yes.
because the hormone levels are changing,
Hmm.
so we have biofeedback machines now, and we can start to see they've done blood and on saliva tests and watching the hormones change as someone goes through mindfulness practices. And I tell people when I teach them, like, you're just gonna have to believe me because I don't have my biofeedback machine right now to like hook up to you, but you got to believe that hormones are currently changing. And
Hmm.
so you are putting, and that's exactly why I describe it like you get the control center, right? The dashboard here where you can start okay, I need to get my cortisol level down. Another thing that I remind my folks is that by just having your arms up like this, cortisol levels go down. And so you can just stand with with your arms up. So they had 2 minutes, arms up. they showed cortisol levels going down and testosterone levels going higher, the confidence hormone.
Yes. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah, so there are things that you can do to get your hands in on the autonomic nervous system and make some changes, you know?
And going along with that too, when we're talking about sleep, is that melatonin. We do a lot of things to get in our own way. Disclaimer, let me back up. Melatonin doesn't just come in a bottle, y'all. Your body actually makes it. Yep, yeah, yeah, yep. Your brain, your
I just
pineal
have to
gland.
plug in my computer. T Keep talking though. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
And so I think that a lot of people are like, it's cool. I'm just going to pop a melatonin gummy. That's a whole nother conversation. But no, your brain actually makes it. You do not have to get it from your big box store. And so when I was putting together my wind down routine and I was purposely, I had the lights very dim and then I actually have one lamp on so I'm not tripping around completely in the dark. And that lamp I have very dim, but I also have a special light bulb in it that can change colors. You can get those anywhere. And
You
so I
did
make
that.
it red. I make
Yes,
it
I
red.
have that too. I have the red light. Yep.
Exactly, because it's the least disruptive to melatonin production. So, just to kind of give everybody like a little lesson, blue light, everyone's talking about blue light, but why are we talking about blue light? And so, just to give us a little background, think about our caveman ancestors. They knew when it was time to be awake when the sun was up.
Mhm.
They knew when it was time to go to bed when the sun went down. And so that is our internal body clock, is that if everything goes according to plan, we're supposed to be awake when the sun is up. We're supposed to be asleep whenever the sun goes down. But because of all of our modern advances, our overhead lights, our screens, everything, it delays that. It can really, really disrupt our internal body clock. And that also goes for screens, especially screens that we hold up to our face really, really closely. Because blue light, here's the kicker, right? Blue light is the same wavelength as sunlight. So the brain is supposed to be winding down, but if we have our screen, our laptop, our tablet, our this, our that, it's blasting blue light into our eyes, even if we have it down on the brightest level, it's still blue light still matters. And so when the blue light is coming into our eyes, the brain is like, "Oh, that's sunlight. I thought I was supposed to be feeling sleepy. Hold on. Melatonin, cut it. The sun's out."
Right.
And so that's how we get into our own way. And we do that in a lot of different ways whenever it comes to sleep. But that is purposefully why, as I'm doing my yoga therapy routine, that the lights are very dim and that I'm using a red light bulb because I'm trying to support my melatonin production, which will help me transition significantly easier into sleep compared to if I had all my overheads on.
Yeah. Yes, we do that too. And we also watch pets, like our pets and our animals, and we see how they start to change when the sun goes down and even our daughter and and how when the seasons change and it's darker earlier and so it's really interesting to watch what we're naturally supposed to be doing. And when I lived in Vegas, after I was a showgirl, I was a cocktail waitress on graveyard shifts.
Oh,
And they make casinos in a way that you do not
they
know
do.
if it's day or night. And Leah, it was torture. It was horrible.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I didn't do it. I think I did it for a year. I am upset with myself that I did it. I was young and my thought process was all the auditions for shows are typically in the morning.
Yeah.
And if I'm working day shift, I can never get to an audition. But
Right.
if I work night shift, I'll go straight off of work into an audition, then be home by noon and like go to, it just does not work that way. And again, I'm still upset at myself for putting my poor body in that position. Now, shift workers, firefighters, overnight shift, like we have to have them.
Right.
So what can they do to balance that out?
And this is such a challenging question because I don't know that there's a right answer. I get a lot of supervisors who will ask me questions about this, and I don't know that I have a right answer except for, I think it's important that people know this is just like a public service announcement is when we are in opposite of what we're supposed to be doing, so we are awake when we should be sleeping and sleeping when we should be awake, and we're doing that for quite a while, that is a known carcinogen, meaning that, I'm not saying that A causes B. I'm saying that there are a lot of different factors that come into play whenever we're talking about developing cancer. And obviously, everybody's lifestyle and genetics are going to come into play. However, we know that shift work is a modifiable risk factor whenever it comes to cancer. So we need to just put that out there first and foremost, because I think a lot of people don't realize that, or like you, they have good reasons for doing it, or maybe they get double the money because they're working this different type of shift. So I think it's important that when you have knowledge, you can't unknow what it is that you know. And so now that you have that knowledge, what is it that you're going to do with it? And you're exactly right. Like, even if it was a perfect world, we still have to have emergency room doctors around the clock. We still have to have people who are there to protect us around the clock, things like that. So it's just such a challenging question. And I would say one of the things that we could take into consideration, and I don't know how much this is actually done in real time, but there are such a thing as chronotypes. And you've probably heard of the early bird and the night owl, and those do exist. And whenever it comes to that, if there are shifts being made and there is some flexibility, and I don't know how much flexibility there truly is, because there are probably things that are taken into consideration and how senior someone is and things like that. But I would say that if someone who's listening to this is somebody who makes schedules for others, asking people, what is your chronotype? Are you someone who is a night owl? Do you naturally just like to stay up quite late and sleep in? And if that's the case, I imagine that, again, if we have to have schedules like that, that person might be a better choice compared to someone who, like me, like, I'm out at 9 p.m., like, forget about it.
Yeah.
I'm totally worthless. So I think that if we can do a little bit of prioritization like that, that would be best. But it's so challenging, and I don't have the best answer whenever it comes to people who have all kinds of erratic schedules.
One of the yoga masters I studied with was talking about how a few of his masters that really truly are doing true meditation for a good chunk of time sleep less because they are putting themselves in the same sort of recovery. And again, the opposite is true. If you pass out, doesn't mean you're getting good rest or recovery either, right?
Are we
So
talking passing out from
from like
alcohol?
drinking or you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, that's totally artificial. That's a whole nother
Right. So
conversation.
just because
Yes.
your eyes are closed, let's say
Right.
you're in the horizontal position, doesn't mean you're like recovering. And so the opposite of being in meditation and actually getting your body in recovery can also support rest and recovery. And so with that in mind, there are a few practices we have on our online platform, and I'd actually like to talk about
Awesome.
adding to that for us are things that one can do. So, for example, 2 a.m., firefighters get a call, all the adrenaline, their rush, their focus, inflow, and then the call is dropped. Oh, it was a fire alarm, and they got it figured out. And then they have to go back to the bunk room, and but they haven't gone through the process of the cycle of relieving those stress hormones. So they're ready to fire and do some cool shit, but there's nothing to do, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
a lot of folks might think that, oh, okay, let's get into some yoga nidra, let's get into restorative. I actually take them through some pretty intense sequences
Okay.
flow to flush out and complete that cycle. Then I take them into the restorative and the yoga nidra. Like, let's give you what your body's wanting, which
Hmm.
is to like
Burn off some of that adrenaline.
and then let's bring it down.
I
And
really like that.
yeah, and then we can do something where you are in recovery. Perhaps it takes you to sleep, perhaps it doesn't, perhaps you don't even have time to sleep, but you're still. You are still, your mind is still, your breath is still, your body is still, your hormones are balancing out. So I try to give things like that are like the closest we can get to something when you have no other choice,
Right.
such as in public safety, you know?
Right. And I'm just going to throw this out there because I thought that this was really interesting as I was doing research for the book. And it is, and obviously people are going to be listening and like, wow, this is so cool, but it's also kind of lofty. But there's starting to be a lot more thought in the ways in which we build and construct, say, for example, a firehouse. So I was just reading about one, and they are giving everyone their own individual space. So if there are people who are snoring or people who have sleep apnea who need to use a CPAP, you're not going to be annoying everybody else with your sleep sounds. Also, if there are people who want to be awake or doing different things, everyone can have their own sleep space. But one thing that's cool is, okay, if there's an alarm, but only this particular team needs to go out, only that particular team is awoken.
Yeah.
Same thing. We don't have this crazy like alarm that goes off like I'm sure some places still do. But with this newer setup at the firehouses, it's a much more gentler alarm. It's kind of like this gradual brightening of a light to wake them up. It's not this blast of a blaring sound that's just going to immediately jack
Yeah.
up your cortisol and adrenaline. So I just think that there's very cool things that we're also doing environmentally to try and change or make better or like lessen the harm that we're doing whenever we're waking up folks like this. Because yeah, that's unfortunately part of the job is that yeah, there will be things happening at all hours.
Yeah. When do you think, like, with these changes, so obviously enough research has come out that we've been able to identify shift work as a carcinogen. When do you think we're going to be able to do more research on these changes and seeing in firehouses and how they wake them up and to see if any positive outcomes are happening?
One of the things being a government worker for as long as I have been, my answer is always budget. Is there money for it? Because you could absolutely study this. You could start studying it tomorrow if you had a group that was willing to do that. You just need to, yeah, have like the budget and the time because this would be more longitudinal, right? Like you need
Right.
to be having people sign up for something like this and be willing to do it and to do it for several months, if not several years, to really see how
Right.
these changes are impacting them. And it would be, lovely to have them before and after too, like before they got a new firehouse or before they put in this
Right.
particular type of yoga sequencing. So it would be, I think it's a wonderful study idea. I just don't know. Again, my mind always goes to where's the budget for that?
Oh yeah, I know. I mean, that's me too.
Yeah.
But I hope that we can actually start seeing, start putting data not only behind the scary things, but also the things we're doing to support, which I think could then, be encouraging. So you mentioned your book. Okay, so
Yeah.
for a drug, it's going to be out October 1st, 2025. Before
Yes.
we get into the book, when were you like a book? I'm writing a book
Yep.
on this.
Oh, this one took me by surprise, Olivia. I've been at the Bureau for, this is my sixth year, full time, and I've done countless sleep presentations and worked with people one on one all the time. But then I started getting out into the community a little bit more and working with state and local. And last October, I went to a conference and it was all like first responder wellness. And one thing that was super exciting for me, because at the Bureau, our conferences are normally on the smaller side. So we don't have a ton of breakout sessions like you are a captive audience. Like whether you like it or not, you're going to sit there and you're going to listen to me talk about sleep.
Yeah.
But what was very cool was being out in the community. I went to I gave a sleep lecture and it was a breakout. So you could choose if you wanted to come to the sleep lecture or go to whatever else was going on at the same time. And I was just blown away at A, the amount of people who actually selected to come to the sleep talk. But then B, this was a huge room and it was standing room only. Like we needed to bring in more chairs. And I was like, holy cow, like this is what we need to be seeing. It was so much fun. It was fabulous. Like the audience was so engaged. And that's what makes an amazing presentation is when we're actually going back and forth and you're getting the information that you want rather than me just like talking at you. Because clearly I can do that. I'm very verbose. And someone came up to me afterwards. Actually, she was the one who was presenting on yoga, and she came up to me afterwards and she said, this was such a good presentation, Leah. But you know what? the person who really needs this is my best friend, and she couldn't be here. And she says, "Do you have a website? Do you have a handout? Do you have a book?" I'm
Ah,
like, I'm like, what? You would read a book if I wrote it? There's already like a couple out there. And I mean, she planted a seed, and I'm telling you what, by the time I got back to my hometown from that conference, I sat down. It took me like 2 to 3 months to put everything down on paper because I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna put everything down from all of my years of working one-on-one with people and just the unique things that I've come across when it comes to sleep and helping people. And that's how it developed and came about. And I had no idea that this was coming. So thank you, Joyce, for asking me that question. And yeah,
so okay, if sleep were a drug, then
yes.
if sleep were a
If
drug,
If sleep were a drug, it would probably be illegal. You probably couldn't afford it. It would be, our lives would be so incredible. I like to think about, you've probably seen a meme like this before where somebody sits at a table and maybe they're at a festival or like a college campus or something, and they have a sign that says something really controversial and it says, like, try and change my mind.
oh yeah, change my yes,
And
yes.
I like to think about that for myself as like sleep touches everything. Try and change my mind.
Right, right, right.
And in my world, in my reality, and what the research tells us is it really truly does touch everything. So if you were giving yourself the opportunity, and here I imagine a lot of people who are listening are first responders, and for you guys in particular, the very first section of my book is like, I'll sleep when I'm dead.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot.
Yeah. Well, if you want that, keep it up because you'll get to the
We'll
grave
get
a lot
there.
quicker.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay. And one super fascinating piece of of research is that when we are chronically sleep deprived, and it doesn't have to be extreme, 6 hours every night, 5 hours every night. A lot of people listening are probably like, "Yeah, that's me." When you are in a state like that of chronic sleep deprivation, and yes, I'm using the words chronic sleep deprivation because that falls into the category of it. It doesn't have to be something insane or extreme. 6 hours of sleep a night, 5 hours of sleep a night, less than that, you are functioning suboptimally. However, the research tells us that you don't know that you are. You don't know that you're impaired. And that's what's scary.
People don't even know their highest potential. I mean, this is
Right.
this is the same thing I think about with yoga too. Like we have this master system, this amazing thing that we are just putzing along with it. And we can see the body. So do we have all these ways of up leveling and making the body a high performance vehicle? Yes, because we can see it, we can touch it. But the subtle body, which arguably is more powerful and more magical, we just trash, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, all of us, all of us do it. Even us talking about it, we're not like preaching here. I mean, I'm also doing my best in life, right? But I think there's just this awareness of you have no idea how powerful you could be if you took the whole scope of human performance into consideration, you know?
Absolutely. And I think, what's really telling is if you follow the money. And so with more popular like sleep books coming out, and I think sleep becoming more like trendy in the wellness space and hearing about it on more and more podcasts of people who are super famous, I think that we're seeing professional sports teams like taking this seriously of like, oh, okay, like you might be able to make two more baskets in a game. Like, okay, then like we're going to take sleep very seriously and we're going to hire on a sleep psychologist and we're going to make sure that our home games and our away games are optimally timed and this, that, and the other so that you're getting the amount of sleep and you're not jet lagged and this and that. And there's just so much research out there in the sports world that has come out in the past decade, half a decade of people like starting to take this seriously because that's where a ton of money is professional sports and collegiate sports. And it's just so interesting that, and this is a whole nother conversation of the amount of money that goes into things like that and the amount that folks like that are paid, which obviously they're extremely talented. However, the people who are the real superheroes are not getting the same treatment and the same forethought and how can we better them and how can we make sure that their sleep is going well so that they can optimally perform. And it's just really unfortunate that that's how things shake out, and that's a much larger conversation.
Yeah. I've also found like those in public safety that are tactical athletes, like SWAT operators and stuff like
Mhm.
that, they are actually more open-minded to all of this because they're like, anything that's going to make me better and like this amazing machine that gets the job done, I'll do it. You want me to turn around 3 times and jump up and down? Okay, I'll do it. If the science says it'll improve me, right? So they're really open for all of that, which reminds me of like athletes. I think it's the folks that then start to, they get some rank on them, which pulls them back into an office space and um, things start to happen. They start to slow down, gain some weight, injuries, this or that, and then they get further and further from the thing that will draw them out of that. And yeah, we could talk forever because it's layered, it's systemic, it's,
Mhm.
the whole thing. So, and what I was going to say is a lot of people think when they hear yoga, they think of sitting still, being still, slow
Mhm.
stretches. And since they're in this activated state, imagining sitting down and being still sounds like torture to them.
Mhm.
And so they
Yes.
don't want to do that because it doesn't even feel accessible. And sometimes I even say, like, almost insulting to their career or like so out of touch because like what you think I can sit down and clear my mind, right? That's, and it's like, no, I don't think that. I know that you have to it's not
Kind
snap,
of burn it off.
relax. We have to work with your it's like put the thermostat has to hit the top before it can come back down again. But I think that's another turnoff for people is feeling, whether it's subconscious, that there's no way this system can be still right now.
Mhm.
And that's automatically what people probably even go to if they're not trained and understand the first responder lifestyle.
Yeah. No, I think that that's so, so valuable. And I'm excited to talk about how we could incorporate that into the book because that is a question that I get asked often is like, oh, I'm coming off a shift, I'm coming off of this. And I'm thinking from like a trauma psychologist perspective of what do we do with this? How do we do with this? And, but I really like throwing that in there as one more tool for your toolkit of like whatever resonates with you, whatever works.
And everything every day is different. That's another thing.
Hmm.
Yoga is about awareness at the end of the day, and it's self-awareness and turning the mirror in and looking. And you have to ask yourself, what does my nervous system need right now?
Yeah.
And you have the tools to be able to choose what's best. So
Mhm.
it's not a one size fits all, even every day with the same person.
I
But
would
it's
say even building that skill of self-awareness, because I think that there are so many people out there who, just to kind of give an example, I'll have people in my office and just trying to get to know them, I'll say, okay, so how do you blow off steam? Like, how do you relax? What are your coping mechanisms? And they kind of look at me like, I don't know.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
so I'm kind of like, okay, so we're going to start from the bottom level. We're going to figure this out. We're going to get you more self-aware and then figuring out, okay, what does my body need once you're self-aware enough to even
right. And that's you
realize
just
what's happening.
described exactly why we teach YFFR is on the yoga mat. I don't just let people get in a position and chill. I'm asking them, okay, so half downward facing dog, let's say your hips are above your knees, your arms are extended, half down dog. And I'll say,
Puppy?
okay, yeah, but we don't call it puppy because some
Okay.
people are like, shut up. So some people know it as puppy pose. We call it half down dog, a scaled
Half
down
down.
version of down dog.
Got it.
And but I asked them, I'm like, do you know where your feet are placed behind you? Make sure your feet are directly behind the knees. Now press on the shoelace part of your foot so it fires up and stabilizes from the waist down. If your feet are doing whatever the heck they want to do and you have no idea, these are your feet, ma'am, okay, and you don't know where they're placed, that is self-awareness. It's
Hmm.
proprioception. It's the same
Hmm.
part of the brain that can have introspection and interoception. And so that's why oh my God, it drives me nuts when people think we're stretching. No, dude, I'm training your awareness because you don't even know where your foot or your hand is, and you work with deadly weapons. Oh my God, you know,
That's a great point. Yes.
and trigger fingers. When I had 6 months with my police academy recruits, I don't do this right off the bat, so no one be scared. But at the end of the 6 months, yeah, I did have them in handstand doing breath work control and tapping their trigger finger while upside down. So that,
Whoa.
yeah,
Impressive.
right. So what's happening is they're in an awkward position, yet they have control of their breathing and control of their motor skills. But that took 6 months of brain training.
I'm still so impressed. Damn. Okay, I gotta ask, is the handstand on the wall or is it like a full balancing
On the wall,
handstand?
on the wall, on the wall,
Okay, you
on
blew
the
me away.
wall.
Okay, but still.
Yes. But actually but I will coach someone in the middle of the room. And how I coach handstand is I take my arm in between the knees or so, and I have them squeeze my arm or squeeze my fist with their legs. That automatically pulls everything up. They're balancing no problem. I'm also standing right there, so I think they feel, and then I can have them do that there if I am there, having them squeeze my arm with their legs. But
Okay,
when they're
gotcha.
all doing it as a class, they're against the wall. Yes. Yeah.
Wow. I love
So,
it.
yeah, but guys, that's what we're doing. Okay. We're not stretching a hamstring. Go to the gym if you want to stretch.
Stretch class.
Yeah, go to stretch class. That's not this. Speaking of gymnastics, I like to say if stretching, okay, and flexibility were enlightenment, then the US gymnastic team would be our Buddhas, okay? Like it's not about that, because and same thing with a dancer, right? I have so many injuries, Leah. Like my knee won't frickin' bend. Like this all this shit from dancing.
Yeah.
I forced and I pulled and da 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 da. Was I super flexible? Yes. Does that mean I had, the neurological control? No, I was just pushing beyond my limit, and my body was mad at me for it. Now I'm paying the price.
Hmm.
So yeah, so it's different. So when you said to Joyce at the conference, like, well, there are books out there already on sleep, and there are. So why does yours need to exist?
Thank you for asking that question. This book is written for first responders. This and you know what, I've gotten some pushback about that. The person who's writing my foreword, I'm so excited and so pleased that it's going to be Colonel Dave Grossman. I'm very pleased. And one of the pieces, yeah,
I love Gross. He in On Combat, he actually talks about yoga. No one remembers that part. No one thinks about it, but he does. And so he knows, man. He knows.
he knows. And he said, Leah, I am so excited that you are writing this book. And, from him, I'm like blushing. I'm like, oh my gosh, so exciting. But he says, here's a piece of advice for you. I'm like, okay, let's hear it. And he says, take out everything that refers to first responders because everybody needs this book.
Mm,
And my reply was, with all due respect, like these are my people. This is who I have spent my career working with. This is who I know well. And also putting my psychologist hat on, people like when they feel understood, when they know that not that I've been there, not that I'm weapons bearing, because I'm not an agent, but I've spent enough time with you guys to understand what you go through and what you see and what you share with me in the space of my therapeutic office. And so when I talk about nightmares, and the first example that I give is your gun not going off, you get it. You know that I get it. You know that I understand and I'm not just writing about something generic that doesn't ring true to you. And so I think that it's so important that people feel heard and understood and that their life experience is resonating with them in these pages.
yeah.
And their experience is just fundamentally very different. I have some areas where I talk about trauma, and that's a whole nother conversation too, because I'm certified in EMDR and brain spotting. And I talk about why this is a very vicious cycle for our first responders of if your mental health isn't going well, your sleep is not going to go well. If your sleep's not going well, your mental health isn't going to go well. So it's kind of just this cycle. And I think that Yes, anybody could pick up the book and read it and still get a ton of value out of it, but it is written through the lens of a police psychologist. That's why I wrote it, and I'm keeping it that way. And then if it does well, I'm happy to write more and more because sleep is still sleep. Everybody
Yeah.
sleeps. There's not that much difference. Everyone's going through light, deep REM unless you've got a disorder. So hopefully there are more future books to come, but I felt very strongly about this is a book for first responders. These are my people.
I love that. It's niche. Like you have to be, sleep isn't niche, but like who you're speaking to is always, I think getting niche is scarier, but more successful. But also, so I have been asked to teach yoga for first responders for other populations. And at
Yeah.
first I was trying to, because I pride myself, sounds like you too, on being job specific and culturally
Mhm.
informed with my delivery.
Yes.
I like, yeah, going to a yoga studio, great, great. It's not going to hurt you, but yoga for first responders is different. It's yoga
Specific.
for
Yes.
first responders.
Yeah.
So, so I was trying to like change, like we were teaching healthcare professionals or teachers or athletes, and I was trying to like change everything to be applied to them. But to build what I built, I went through a fire academy, I went through a police academy. I've been doing this for years, right along.
Yeah.
Da, da, da. I'm not going to go to medical school to try to make it job specific to the healthcare professionals, right? And it just was not, every time I was trying to change it and stuff, it just wasn't landing. So
Yeah.
what I said to all of them was, I'm keeping it yoga for first responders. You can apply the alternative in your mind. So for example, the nightmare of the gun not going off, in Olivia's world, that's me walking on stage without rehearsal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's
Exactly.
it's the same, not the same situation, the same stress hormone, right? The
Mm-hmm.
same, right? So
Yeah.
everyone has that feeling. It's a different application for everyone, but I believe that everyone can relate to it in their own way. So I'm not going to change my specialty. You're going to have to know what I'm talking about and apply it to yourself, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that's kind of my take on that because me trying to make it fit everyone just made it sucked. It was bad. You
Yeah.
know?
It fundamentally changes what it is you've created.
Yes, exactly. Um, so there is a chapter in your book on yoga, correct? Like yoga nidra.
Yes.
That
So the chapter is building your perfect wind down routine, and I talk about lots of different things, but there is an entire section on yoga, and I built out like a baby sequence of probably like 7 to 8 very basic, very beginner friendly moves that are in the book. And then yes, I also describe what yoga nidra is.
yeah.
And so those are, and I also talk about meditation as well, but they are within the building your perfect wind down routine chapter.
Okay. So, for those listening, yoga nidra can be translated as the sleepless sleep. It's basically getting into a deep meditative state, but without crossing over into like, true actual sleep. Very hard to maintain. Lots of people fall asleep during yoga nidra. And listen, as you said earlier, you need it, go ahead, no prop. Um, and in our YFFR world, we call that neuro reset. We have specific kinds of neurological resets that will fit more meditation, mindfulness, might fit more yoga nidra. And so, um, we though those who experience YFFR classes, when we have those longer like visualization type of neuro resets, that's kind of our mirroring of, yoga nidra. Um, and I would love somehow if we can get folks a segment of that chapter somehow,
Sure.
just to dip a little toe in, something like that. So let's think about how we can do that. We can
Absolutely.
collect names. So maybe we'll even put in the show notes a little um a little form people can fill out.
Hmm.
You get a segment of that chapter or that chapter, see what you're kind of how and see if they resonate with your wording and then want to get on the list for your book. Do you have a pre-sale happening?
It will be. The website is a little under construction right now. I believe that people can enter their email addresses right now. So by the time hopefully this goes out and is
Yeah.
live, that everything will be set up and ready to go for people to either put their email in if it's not available yet, or after October 1st, it will be available for purchase.
So yeah, well, by the time this is out, we're gonna have it all figured out in show notes of, getting a sample, getting on the list to get the book or to buy the book, all of that stuff. So, and where to follow you. Are you pretty active on social media?
It's like I never existed until 2025, to be honest with
Oh,
you.
do you know what? When I see someone didn't come on till like 2025 or only recently got active, I'm like, scammer. I know whatever you're doing is a scam. That's what I always believe. You
I
got
promise I'm not a
out of
scammer. I'm real. I'm not a bot. No,
We're
it's just
vouching for you.
because, well, first and foremost, I got rid of my social media when I was writing my dissertation many moons ago, and it just really served me. But also being in the bureau,
Yeah.
it it's just safest. It's just best not to. So when I wrote the book and I started working with my team, they're like, yeah, so you're gonna have to start doing social media things. I'm like, okay, someone's gonna have to teach me because I really don't know.
Just get an intern, a social media marketing intern. They're young, they know what's up, they want to do it. I mean, I enjoy doing it too, but it is a job. Like it's a job and you have to spend time doing it. But I think you'd kill on it because like
Thanks.
you would give some great short reels on tips like, hey, tonight do this. You could put your yoga sequence on there. In fact, I want to talk to you about putting that sequence you created together for us, and we can have folks, be able to
Yes.
follow along. So we'll talk all about that.
Yeah, we can do it now or we can do it later, but I have like a whole workbook with like pictures and how to do it, and I'm happy to, yeah, we're going to do our very first workshop that is going to be a sleep lecture, and then also I'm going to walk you through the sequence of how to wind down, and we're actually doing it in the evening. And this is happening in October in Fairfax at Radiance Yoga on, we're going to put it in the show notes.
We'll put it in the show
We're going
notes.
to put it in the show notes.
Yeah, I'm never prepared with actual like facts like that, like dates
Dates.
and times. I'm like, and also people are listening to this driving or doing laundry, so they're not like they're like, okay, at the end I'll go figure it out.
Yeah.
Dr. Leah, what a pleasure. We're gonna get you more. I want to integrate more together because it's a perfect fit. And so we're going to keep brainstorming. So this is not the last that you've seen about of Leah Kaylor on our uh, platform.
Yay.
So yeah, so thanks for being here. Everything, like we said, is in show notes to follow up, and hopefully we get some good stuff out there for our audience too, who I know would love what you have to offer.
Absolutely. Yes. Super excited. Thank you so much for having me. Such a good conversation. Just such a pleasure, Olivia.
Thank you. All right, we'll talk soon.
Hey, before we go, I want to remind you that training your mental and physical health is incredibly important, especially for those working in high-stress jobs like first responders.
And if you're interested in learning more about yoga for first responders, visit yogaforfirstresponders.org for our on-demand training app, online course platform, in-person training, and more.
Like this podcast, subscribe, and give us a great review. We are so happy to have you part of the YFFR mission.